David Gugino, and in today's book review, I have one of my favorite books that I've ever reviewed and I've ever read through my journey into reading and learning. And the book I have for us today is The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F by Mark Manson. Now, I have used other examples in this book for years, and I've also have learned a lot of what I've learned about life through this book. And to be honest, it's real. It is very, very good book about life. As it says on the front, a counterintuitive approach to living a good life. It's authentic, and I just really like the reality that Mark Manson lives in when he writes these books and writes stuff on his blog. So this is part 2 of The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. And before we get into what we're about to read, let me read what it says right here. For decades you've been told that the positive thinking is the key to a happy, rich life, but those days are over. F positivity, as in the F word. Mark Manson says, let's be honest, sometimes things are F up, and we have to live with it. For the past few years, Manson, via his widely popular blog, has been working on correcting our delusional expectations for ourselves and for the world. He now brings his hard-fought wisdom to this groundbreaking book. Manson makes the argument backed by both academic research and well-timed poop jokes that improving our lives hinges out not on our ability to turn lemons into lemonade, but on learning to better stomach lemons. Human beings are flawed and limited. As he writes, not everybody can be extraordinary in society, and some of it is not fair or your fault. Manson advises us to get to know our limitations and accept them. This, he says, is the real source of empowerment. Once we embrace our fears, faults, and uncertainties, once we stop running from the avoiding and start confronting painful truths, we can begin to find the courage and confidence we desperately seek. So there's that. Now we're going to dive into what we're actually reviewing here today. It follows that finding something important and meaningful in your life is perhaps the most productive use of your time and energy. Maturity is what happens when one learns only to give an F about what's truly F-worthy. Because if you don't find that meaningful something, your Fs will be given to meaningless and frivolous causes. People aren't just born not given an F. In fact, we're born given way too many Fs. Ever watch a kid cry his eyes out because his hat is the wrong shade of blue? Exactly. F that kid. When we're young, everything is new and exciting. Everything seems to matter so much. Therefore, we give tons of Fs. We give an F about everything and everyone. About what people are saying about us, about whether that cute boy or girl called us back or not, about whether our socks match or not, or what color our birthday balloon is. As we get older, with the benefit of experience and having seen so much time slip by, we begin to notice that most of these sorts of things have little lasting impact on our lives. Those people whose opinions we cared about so much before are no longer present in our lives. Rejections that were painful in the moment have actually worked out for the best. We realize how little attention people pay to the superficial details about us, and we choose not to obsess so much over them. So think about that. Rejections that were painful in the moment have actually worked out for the best. We realize how little attention people pay to the superficial details about us, and we choose not to obsess so much over them. So honestly, I have read a lot there, but think of rejection, and the most important use of your time and energy is, It then follows of finding something important and meaningful in your life as perhaps the most productive use of your time and energy. Because your time, your energy are probably one of the things you should value most in life. Why? In your life, your time and your energy are what make you who you are. Your time and energy are what you spend developing your habits, pursuing something you love to do, and not only that, but maturity is what happens when one learns to give an F about what's truly F-worthy. So when it comes to rejection and very little things that happen in your life, you originally do care about them, but then in reality, as life comes along, you start to not care about them. And that's also the goal in life, to not care more and more about people. And for you to, well, you have to care about other people, but honestly, to not be like those people. To love one another and to be kind to everybody, and to be mature about it, and to find productive use of your time. That's like life for you. Another good fact, and I really feel like I read some of this twice, so I need to rewatch what I read, or rewatch some of the older videos that I have of these books, because I'm going to end up reviewing almost every book that I've read. That's going to take lots of time and many years down the road. But listen to what Mark Manson has to say here about success. Listen to what his opinion is on success. Listen to this. Improvement at anything is based on thousands of tiny failures, and the magnitude of your success is based on how many times you fail at something. If someone is better than you at something, then it's likely because she has failed at it more than you have. If someone is worse than you, it's likely because he hasn't been through all of the painful learning experiences you have. We can be truly successful only at some things we're willing to fail at. If we're unwilling to fail, then we're unwilling to succeed. A lot of fear of failure comes from having chosen crappy values. For instance, if I measure myself by the standard make everyone I meet like me, I'll be anxious because failure is 100% defined by the actions of others, not by my own actions. I'm not in control, thus my self-worthy is at the mercy of judgments by others. Whereas if I instead adopt the metric improve my social life, I can live up to my value of good relations with others, regardless of how other people respond to me. My self-worth is based on my own behaviors and happiness. Crappy values, as we saw in Chapter 4, involve tangible external goals outside of our control. The pursuit of these goals causes great anxiety, and even if we manage to achieve them, they leave us feeling empty and lifeless. Because once they're achieved, there are no more problems to solve. Better values, as we saw, are process-oriented. Express myself honestly to others. A metric for the value honesty is never completely finished. It's a problem that must continuously be re-engaged. So honestly think about that. Crappy values involve tangible external goals outside of our control. The pursuit of these goals causes great anxiety, and even if we manage to achieve them, they leave us feeling empty and lifeless, because once they're achieved, there are no more problems to solve. So when he's talking about problems to solve or manage to achieve them, it's honestly like having a group of friends that go to a bar with. Once you achieve that and you're going out every weekend, that's like great, your problems are solved. But then what's going to give you anxiety is if your friends don't want to do that anymore. If your friends move on. If your friends realize that you're not a good person to be around because that's all you want to do. Now you're probably wondering, what's the twist of this story? Well, it's a crappy value to want to go to a bar every weekend and get plastered and wanting to make bad choices with your friends. And then like it said here, because failure is 100% defined by the actions of others, not by my own actions, I'm not in control, thus my self-worth is at the mercy of judgment by others. So that is a crappy value, because when you fail, it is your fault. A lot of what happens in life, pretty much everything happens in your life, is your fault. And that is kind of a hard pill to swallow, because when it comes to it being your fault, you have to accept that you made a mistake, and you have to accept. Now you do also have to say to yourself, I'm going to change, not let this failure define me, but you have to accept the fact that it was you that did that failure. And then like it says over here, and the magnitude of your success is based on how many times you failed at something. If someone is better than you at something, then it's likely because she has failed at it more than you have. If someone is worse than you, it's likely because he hasn't been through all of the painful learning experiences you have. So think about that. When someone's better at you at something, it's because they probably failed at it more than you have. It's like famous actors. The really good actors have failed for so many years before they became successful. And right now, my powerlifting journey, I'm failing my bench press a lot because my form is off and I'm trying to figure it out. But then as I come back to it, I'm going to have my story. Yep, I had a time where my bench press was failing and then it got better. But there's an example right there. And the magnitude of your success is based on how many times you failed at something. So honestly, now you probably are thinking, well, gee, David, do I have to, in order to be successful, do I have to fail tons of times? It might not be tons of times, but you have to fail. And you can't be afraid of failure because it's going to happen. But what you're going to do is, one of my favorite things of all time is fail forward. And that's what you're going to do. So really think about that. If someone else has failed something more than you have and is better at it than you have, it's because they failed at it more than you have. And then also think about, well, if you're not willing to succeed, if you're unwilling to succeed, no, if you're unwilling to fail, then you're unwilling to succeed. So think about that. Now the third and final part of what we're reading is another very good part, and this is about the victim mentality. So listen to what he has to say here. Listen to this. For victims, the hardest thing to do in the world is to hold themselves accountable for their problems. They spent their whole life believing that others are responsible for their fate. That first step of taking responsibility for themselves is often terrifying. For savers, the hardest thing to do in the world is to stop taking responsibility for other people's problems. They've spent their whole life feeling valued and loved only when they're saving somebody else. So letting go of this need is terrifying to them as well. If you make a sacrifice for someone you care about, it needs to be because you want to, not because you feel obligated or because you fear the consequences of not doing so. If your partner is going to make a sacrifice for you, it needs to be because he or she genuinely wants to, not because you've manipulated the sacrifice through anger or guilt. Acts of love are valid only if they're performed without conditions or expectations. It can be difficult for people to recognize the difference between doing something out of obligation and doing it voluntarily. So here's a litmus test. Ask yourself, if I refuse, how will the relationship change? Similarly ask, if my partner refused something I wanted, how would the relationship change? If the answer is that a refusal would cause a blowout of drama and broken china plates, then that's a bad sign for your relationship. It suggests that your relationship is conditional based on superficial benefits believed from one another, rather than on unconditional acceptance of each other. People with strong boundaries are not afraid of a temper tantrum, an argument, or getting hurt. People with weak boundaries are terrified of those things and will constantly mold their own behavior to fit the highs and lows of their emotional roller coaster. It's not about giving an F about everything your partner gives an F about. It's about giving an F about your partner regardless of the F's he or she gives. That's unconditional love, baby. But really think about that though. To recognize the difference between doing something out of obligation and doing it voluntarily. So honestly, you want to help people, you do, but sometimes people's problems are not your problems. And the hardest thing to do in the world is to stop taking responsibility for other people's problems. Because they're not people who are depressed. Yes, that's horrible, but you recommend them a therapist and that's all you do. You don't constantly help them, you don't constantly feel bad. I mean, you feel bad for them, but it's not your problem that they have personal issues. At least I hope it's not your problem, as in you caused it. But it's about giving an F about your partner regardless of the F's he or she gives. That's unconditional love, and that's honestly what it is. That's what love is. It's honestly you helping each other out and not caring what happens to, let's say not caring. It's not caring about like life's problems, because we all have life's problems, but we're meant to help each other out and meant to be like, you know what, this is part of our life. I'm not going to blame it on you. I'm not going to make it like to a bunch of broken china plates. And honestly, if you think about it, really ask yourself, if I refuse to do this, how will the relationship change? Like people say, think before you speak. So really think about that. And honestly, people with strong boundaries, that is an unreasonable to expect two people to accommodate each other 100% and fulfill every need the other has, because we do need boundaries in life. That's how a relationship works, and that's how not giving an F works. It's about having boundaries, and with what you do, with your career, with who you hang around, that's what life is. It's all about having boundaries and not having a victim mentality. So I want to thank you all for watching this book review. This book review was a little shorter than usual, but I actually have a place to be here in a few minutes. But this is The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, and the takeaway from this video is have boundaries today. Don't let people push you around, have boundaries. But I want to thank you all for watching this video. This is The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I hope you don't care, and I hope you don't give an F, and I hope you have boundaries today.